My brother walked into the room and saw me playing a game, sweating profusely, my focus totally dedicated to the screen. He said, "What are you playing?" Then he saw it. Oh, God Hand. God Hand is an odd name for an all-powerful arm that grants superhuman fighting abilities, but it's actually referring to how players will need divine-like hands in order to master the incredible in-depth combat system. God Hand is easily one of the best, most challenging action games ever made. Set in the Wild West, you play as Gene, a well-meaning though arrogant guy that lost his arm in a fight for it only to be replaced by the God Hand, granting him superhuman fighting abilities. He's joined up by a girl, Olivia, and the two discover there's a cult of demons terrorizing the land trying to summon their god, Ungra, so it's time to send them back to hell. This is done across 8 bizarre locales, including a giant crab fortress, a Venice-like city, ancient deserts, pirate ships, and burnt out towns, all the while fighting against a host of bizarre bosses and demons. Bizarre is putting it lightly though. God Hand is borderline insane, totally nonsensical, and hilarious. The various characters are a strange mixture of Western and Japanese humor, creating something so odd and so extreme, I don't know whether I love it or hate it. There is a very tongue-in-cheek tone though. Gene mocks or rolls his eyes at all the absurd shit he witnesses. The fourth wall is often broken, and the dialogue is so bad it's amazing.
I feel their pain. I'm a slave too. I think I made a mistake. The slaves got it easy.
This is a world with TVs, bunny outfits, circuses with giant gorilla wrestlers that you have to fight, and rocket launchers that you can shoot then throw for maximum damage. And poison chihuahuas. Wait, what the fuck? But this is all aesthetics and God Hand's own unique charm. The levels themselves are very simplistic. You move from one area to the next, beating up bad guys, occasionally fighting a boss or two along the way. It's the combat system that makes God Hand incredible. God Hand is a classic brawler in the vein of retro games like Double Dragon, Final Fight, or Streets of Rage. All your main attacks are mapped to the X, circle, and triangle buttons, as well as the thumbsticks and tandem. However, you can map whatever move you want to any button. And there's a lot of moves. Simple jabs and hooks to explosive punches, roundhouses, and spinning kicks, each having their own pros and cons in speed, power, and vulnerabilities. There is no definitive moveset in God Hand, it's totally reliant on what the player deems useful or relevant to a stage or encounter. This means players can beat the game with the same moves they started with. It just wouldn't be very fun. You automatically lock onto an enemy once you hit them, and you can disengage out of a fight by simply backing away. Enemies aren't too tough, but can hit hard, so to inflict the major hurt, you either must counter them done through interrupting one of their moves or breaking their guard. Guard breaks are an essential tactic, as enemies can block almost all of your attacks, but once broken, you can slam them with combos. I highly recommend having a guard break move mapped to a single button. It's incredibly useful and it makes the game a lot more manageable, as fumbling around is punished most severely. If you can repeatedly land hits on someone, you'll be able to use a finishing move where you can totally crush them. These will change depending on enemy type and are totally awesome and hilarious. You can clearly see the influence of anime like Dragon Ball and Fist of the North Star as Gene punches at max speed before tossing them across the map. God damn. Gene has devastating special attacks that use the power of the God Hand. These are really cool, but demand limited roulette wheel cards scattered randomly across the levels. This is the most linear portion of the combat. You unlock more powerful attacks that use additional cards, gradually getting increasingly more outlandish. Admittedly, your scroll wheel that you select from can get bloated with weaker moves, making it awkward to skim through. Nevertheless, they're lifesavers in clearing groups and laying a beatdown on a boss. Another God Hand ability is entering a berserk-like mode where you're temporarily invincible and each punch hits like a train. This is only possible after accumulating enough tension, which is done via fighting or dodging enemy attacks with the thumbsticks. Like the old school beat 'em ups of yesteryear, Gene can pick up melee weapons or objects to slap up some idiots or toss into a crowd. There's also fruity health pickups you can fall back on. It's not that brutal. The other half of God Hand's brilliance is its dynamic difficulty system, which is the only time it's ever been successfully implemented. The better you do in combat, the higher the level of difficulty, thus more rewards, going from level 1 to level 4, titled Level Die. This all happens in-game during the fighting, and your opponents adjust accordingly. It also goes vice versa if you start losing, making it a bit easier. Essentially, the pragmatic difficulty allows weaker players to succeed alongside skilled ones. It's brilliant stuff. there's a heap of other smaller nuances to God Hand's gameplay that will likely be missed in your first playthrough, such as dodging. It's easy to avoid an enemy's attack by merely backflipping away, but more adventurous types can dodge an enemy before counterattacking. This dramatically increases the tension meter, allowing you to unleash the God Hand faster. Mastering this can allow you to avoid almost all damage in the game and turn major boss fights into minor speed bumps. All the money and treasure you obtain while fighting can be used in buying new moves and upgrades. You can try them out in an arena in different challenges. These get pretty intense, but it's a great way to get some practice and refine your moveset better. You can also blow your cash gambling, which with the help of blackjack and safe scumming, you can accumulate a hoard of cash. When you've developed your combos and techniques down pat, it is a flurry of chaos. The over-the-top cartoonish sound effects of nailing punch after punch before watching them get tossed into a wall is constantly satisfying. So many quote-unquote hard games brutalize the play with artificial limiters such as lives and checkpoints. However, God Hand is a very difficult game that you can get good at through mastering the combat system. Earlier sections of the game become a breeze. You level up faster and start taking more risks as you improve your timing and crowd controlling skills. The frequent boss fights are fairly straightforward, but the clashes with Azil, who wields the same abilities as Jean, are the real showcases, as you have to time each combo and guard break to finally win in glorious fashion. There's a cheap feeling towards many of the stages. I found myself getting caught in the environment, leading to some frustration, a result of the low budget for the devs, I assume. It only hardens my heart they never made a sequel for the PS3. That would have been incredible. Otherwise, after playing God Hand, it becomes very clear why it's built up such a devout and hardcore fanbase. It's a quintessential cult classic that only a minority of gamers will enjoy, and I was thankfully one of them. Its brutal but highly refined combat and absurd storyline makes it very entertaining, and with it being available through the PlayStation Network, I can highly recommend you pick it up and kick some ass.
Yeah!